I am waiting for some people to join. Very interesting people. I hope to be able to interview today. How are you?
Uh, I'm all right. I'm hanging in there.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks for joining. Awesome.
No problem.
Yeah. I see it's you're in your shop. You're always there, and it's amazing because that is definitely something that the youth need to see, and that's kind of what I wanted to tap into today with you because you
Oh, okay.
heavily involved in with the youth. Hey Rod, how are
Hey,
you?
how you doing, sweetie?
I'm doing
What's up?
good. I'm
What's up,
doing
bro?
good.
Hey, how's it going, God?
Rod, this is Sean McCray. Sean McCray is a highly respected OG in my city right here in Newark. Sean, this is Rod Hayes. He is like the record keeper. He's got some information I've been tapping into. So I definitely wanted to this is why I wanted to set up something with you gentlemen because the youth is most important. The kids out here is the most important. And OG, you work with the youth all the time and have been heavily for the past few decades, okay? Um so I know that we're starting off this live on IG. We are gonna take it to Zoom though, because I want to get into some conversations that I just don't want us to run into any problems on, how Instagram works and stuff like that. But yeah, I really wanted to frame this conversation and future conversations, like I said, around the youth. Thank you for everybody for tapping in. My name is Kay. We are here with OG Sean McCray and Rod Hayes. I'm also going to have you gentlemen, introduce yourselves really quickly. But like I said, I want to give this framework of we're tapping in to information that the youth need to know. They're tired of being, you know what I mean? Tired of being lied to, tired of being played around, and they would rather not participate in a lot of things. And they need guidance, they need reassurance. And as elders, I think it's more than our duty, you know what I mean, to continue that. It's a marathon, it's not a race. And I think that you gentlemen are a part of the marathon. And as you continue to pass on this information and pass on this mentorship, I think that is others like myself duty to make the connections and to hopefully be able to get this information to, the youth on a wider scale. But yeah, so I just wanted to, like I said, get this first half an hour, maybe like 20 minutes going here. And really, really get to some heavier stuff in our Zoom meeting. Is that okay, gentlemen?
It's
Yeah,
fine with me.
that's cool.
Cool, cool, cool. Okay. So please, Sean OG, I would love for you to introduce yourself to everybody on the live. There's a few people in here. You're heavily involved in the city of Newark. As far as with the youth, you have the Zoo Crew Basketball League. You're involved in the Newark Public School System. You were involved in politics as well. So, and I see what's going on with that, and I don't really, I want to tap into that a little bit later, but I really want you to just let the people know who you are and what you out putting out here for our youth.
Okay, well, my name is Sean McCray. Right now, I'm the head basketball coach at Central High School. I'm also the attendance counselor at Central High School. I run an outside program called Zoo Crew Basketball Program that I've been running here in the city of Newark since 1996. We cater to youth ages 5 to 18. I also have a business here in the city of Newark called the Zoo Crew Store, which is located on 95 16th Avenue, sits on South 6th Street here in Newark. I've been in, I've been in Newark all my life. Like you said, I dabbled into politics. I just ran for Central Ward Councilman, was my third time running. And, I'm losing by a few hundreds votes. People are not really coming out to vote. But I'm not really a politician. I got into politics because I feel as though there's resources that's available to our communities that's not really being put out in our communities. So I just wanted to, see if I could get inside City Hall to see what resources are available because I don't think our people get, the needed resources that are allocated, to the people. I'm in the community all the time. Just like I said, I lost in the race on May 10th. And you know, I go back to continue doing what I was doing. You know, it's not gonna stop me from you know, my goal of continuing to help the youth here in the city of Newark. Um, you know, I'm a viable person in the community. I'm easily accessible. I'm always in the community. Um, I just want, you know, to do better for want our people to have somebody that really cares about them, to, you know, push the kids to do better, push them to believe that they can be things that people say they can't. So, you know, I'm just that push that, you know, I try to motivate the children, man, just give them another outlet, because I was once one of those kids in Newark that didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and it took me a while to get it together before I figured it out. So, you know, I don't judge anyone. You know, everybody has a story, and, you know, I just don't judge people. I let people, you know, show me who they are, and then from there, you know, I know how to deal with them.
Facts, right, right. I appreciate that. And you deal with youth, but there's different types, right? There, and I bring this up because I think that we, in our conversations, we need to be honest about the different groups of youth that there are, and the interest levels. You know what I mean? Not everybody um goes off to college. Not
Right,
everybody, you know what I mean? Not everybody wants to. I I've worked in the North Public School system as well, per diem, for the past several years. But now I'm working with, you know, IYO, which is in Newark as well. And
right.
so the different types of youth, we're working with 16 to 25-year-old high school dropouts, right? And
Mm.
Rod, I would like for you to tap in and give your, you know, your background, introduce yourself to the people. But I know you just like OG, I know because he's in my city, and he's more like hands-on. I've met him physically. You, though, I've known of you just from social media. However, the information you're giving out, like I said, is putting puzzle pieces together. So with these different types of youth, and like I said, you can tell the people who you are as well. But I want you to tap in on how you see these messages that we have to give to them. How can we, you know, how do we maneuver these messages and weave them to the people on a different level? So yes, please introduce yourself and tap in.
Okay, so my name is Rod Hayes, and up until I got on social media, I was a auto worker, right? But in my spare time, I was a researcher of all topics, and my life led me down the path to become an elder one day. So now I become one of the elders. The elder's responsibility is to read the land, the lay of the land, and find out what the problem is on the land so that the rest of the people can find solutions to problems that seems at first glance insurmountable. Now we going back to what we call tribal tradition. This conversation right here is a prime example of you following tribal tradition. And I'm going to show you why I say that. In your community, you in Newark, New Jersey, right?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
sir.
I lived there for about 8 months back in '89.
Mm.
So I had a call from Asada Shakur on the Wind Talker channel to traverse Newark, right? As the people that would come bringing the message off the land from New Jersey, right? So it's a turnpike flip. What do that mean? That means to turn around a big fish. And we talking about a whale of a lie. So you bring in the connection that she told me was coming once the big whale of a lie comes to get exposed. The whale of a lie is the little white lie that we came on slave ships and we didn't.
Mm.
This connection right here is for us to show the people in real time how our culture works, because the elder vexed the grievance in the public domain directly in my face. he said that he'd been working with these children over 20 years, since 95. At one point in time, he had to get his own life on track. But when he did, he understood the assignment to secure the youth. Right? I'm getting all this by the introduction that he gave because I've never met him before. He's also saying that he has to jump into politics out of his element to bring attention to the plight of the youth in his local community where he reach out to these children. Right? He's not a politician, so that's not his element. But his responsibility as an elder to these children is his element. So that part overrides his lack of experience as a politician. As a chief on the land, he has to secure his youth and take whatever risks necessary to get the job done.
That's a fact.
Right?
That's a fact.
Now,
that's what he's been doing.
In reading the culture, I've never met him before, but this is the question that the high chief asked the next chief to bring him the grievance. In the pursuit, how many fatherless young males see you as a father figure and they got able to get on the right track in their life because of your presence?
More than less. I'll tell you that.
Right? We fatherless communities. The children that's being sent to him is by the will of their mothers to have an honorable father figure in the community. Because we ain't going to never raise no fatherless children, even if some of us that don't have children have to step up and become their fathers, their surrogates.
Right.
This is our culture. We don't know nothing about adoptions. We don't know nothing about fosters. We know something about taking them in. We don't know nothing about give them everything they want, but we sure know about teach them everything they need.
That's a fact.
That's our culture.
Gentlemen, really quickly, I'm gonna bring in the other person that was Turtlegang, and then we can definitely continue this conversation. I just wanted to let you guys know that he'll be coming on. I've accepted him, so yeah, we can. Turtlegang, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing,
How's
young
everybody
bro?
been? Good. You can hear me?
What's going on, bro?
Peace, family. Peace, peace.
Peace. Yes, I definitely wanted to bring Turtlegang in. Turtlegang has a lot of information about the Lenni Lenape, his family being of the tribe, and him having a wealth of knowledge. I know Mrs. Wallace, who is the co-founder of International Youth Organization. She's my matriarch. She's 87 years old, and they did lay out the Lenape Trail through Branchbrook Park and stuff. So I definitely wanted to have you on as well, brother, if we're talking about Newark and we're talking about the tri-state area, New Jersey, and just how everything got together. This is Sean McCray. He's from Newark. We were just talking about him and definitely tapping in with his work with the youth. And I just think that you had a wealth of knowledge to add to this equation. You know what I mean? And there's just some puzzle pieces. Everybody has puzzle pieces. And I'm just doing my part. Like Rod said, I'm just, maybe I'm following some type of protocol. You know what I mean? But this is just something my spirit led me to do because I'm looking for answers. Everybody likes to have these conversations and debates and all of this, that, and third. But my people are still out here. These boys are still on the street. These girls are still everybody's still lost. So there's really no solution. You know what I mean? If you're just out here talking, but the conditions still persist, then that's not really what I'm trying to be on. So I thank you for definitely tapping in. And if you gentlemen, want to stay here, I know it's 2:18, and I want you to introduce yourself too. But I just wanted to say that we were gonna switch over to Zoom. We can continue on here though if you guys feel comfortable.
I'm perfectly fine with this.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Cool.
That's fine.
Got you.
Yeah, I have no problem with it.
Perfect. Okay. So I know Rod was just tapping into what the elder Sean McCray was just going over the grievance that Sean McCray just put out there to us. Turtlegang, if you can introduce yourself and tell us, your wealth of knowledge is what it's about, and your work in the community and everything?
Okay, so my birth name is Norris Francis Branham. I was born in Red Bank, New Jersey. Um, I come from a family that is we come from a community that is a combination of Cherokee who fled out of Georgia and North Carolina in the 1800s, and Raritan Lenape that after leaving Brotherton Reservation, uh, migrated into Monmouth County and set up a community that was a Cherokee, a Lenape, and also it was a station for the Underground Railroad. So we had a lot of what we would call runaway prisoners of war. We assisted, hid them in our farms and things of that nature. So I come from a community that's a mixed blend of Cherokee, Lenape, as well as African, and some Irish and things of that nature. My family was a prominent family in our communities in Monmouth County. We built a lot of the first churches. Like our ancestors were the people they went to. We paved roads, moved houses. We just had we also had one of the first so-called colored newspapers in New Jersey. Started in like 1903. Originally started in like 1890 in Long Branch, and then came to Red Bank in early 1900s. So we've had we've been a part of the community here in Jersey, not just the native community, but also what we would call the African American or colored community. And at this point in time, I'm just continuing the work of my ancestors. Um, we were in a position where obviously, as many other people, reclassified Negro, Black, colored, all those things. So we're at the point now where we are returning to our tribal identities. The family is transitioning now. We're at the beginning of that transition. Also, I'm also, because we're speaking about Newark, I'm also heavily involved in a lot of things going on in Newark. I work closely with Hakeem Green, part of the 24 Hours of Peace concerts that they have they've been having for the past how many years. I'm close friends with Do It All. I also have worked with the mayor's office, different things through Hakeem Green. So I've been very involved in what goes on in Newark, assisting them there. Even though I'm not from Newark, it's part of Jersey, I like to say. So that's a place that I went, that I definitely assisted in, did what I could for the community and do every time I get the opportunity to. You know what I mean? So there
Right.
is a connection with Newark for myself.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. And you were just, like I said, joining us,
Oh,
and
and
you were.
I just like, if I could just complete by saying, and also I'm a tribal member of the Onondaga Northeastern Band of Cherokee Lenape. So
In
Got
our
you.
culture,
And
what he identified his lineage, his works, and his family works to certify him as organic to the land, and to tell us how all of those things connect in his life leading up until this point. All
right.
that comes from the way that he introduced himself.
And I
absolutely.
appreciated this because he looks like, and I this is why I want the youth to be able to see these different representations, because the way he just described himself, if I didn't have knowledge of self and researched and was into, what I'm into, I wouldn't think of him as a native or indigenous just by looking at him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a part of why I wanted to have him a part of this, because of the representation, what he represents and looks like is a regular quote unquote black person, but
Mm-hmm.
he has all of his lineage laid out, right? And so there's this concept of, well, how do these two come together? And this is why I wanted to have this conversation with you gentlemen.
Yeah. Okay, so the final part of his grievance was the biggest obstacle to him having maximum effect on the youth is financial, which made him step off into something that he had no knowledge of, politics. So he stepped out of his lane in order to secure funding. So it's a financial issue that's interfering with a chief on the land being able to secure the youth from the enemy's clutch, right? So they put all of these systems in play to ensnare us, and they allow other people access to certain resources, but they block us from the resources, and then they say that we're not organic to this land, right? So the appearance of the brother that just came in is like me, standard descriptive African American depiction. But we was already here, right? Now, what you did is what a priestess does in the community is she bring one chief to the other chief, and we got to have a witness, and you bring him as the witness. This is the culture. Everything we do, we got to have a witness to our righteousness, right? So you bring him as a witness because he can affirm that just because they look like us don't make them motherfuckers us. We was already here. We didn't come on ships, right? And he presented a historical piece of information that's critical but simple. He said that his ancestors fled from, you say Georgia and Alabama area?
Nah, Georgia, North Carolina, my Cherokee ancestors.
Okay. For the record, that part of the record, they repositioned in the war. We've been an occupied territory at perpetual war for 500 years. They didn't flee, they repositioned in the war.
Who was they?
His ancestors.
Well, so how what was happening was when they were removing the Cherokee from that particular territory, the deal was you could relocate with the tribe and you would receive federal land reserves, right? And that would be obviously the Oklahoma territory, right? But the federal government cut a deal that if you decided to stay, they will give you 640 acres. So that's the deal between the Cherokee and the federal government. Go to Oklahoma or stay, and you'll receive 640 acres.
Right.
The state laws stated that any natives that stayed in the territory were reclassified as people of color. And by law, people of color couldn't own land. So the federal government is giving you land if you want to stay, and the state's taking it away. And that's what was happening. So people were relocating to get out of harm's way and also try to put themselves in the best position to still continue their culture without moving to a whole new environment. Because the East Coast woodlands is very different than Oklahoma. It's a different. It's going to be a different culture. So a lot of people from different nations didn't remove, and they stayed here in the culture, in their environment, and they just were reclassified. You know what I mean? Others fought.
Now their reclassification, it doesn't obscure your vision that you organically tied to the land that we roam, right?
No, because all that is revisionist history. As I was stating before,
I'm sorry, does someone need to go out and come back in? I'm sorry, because the background is really loud. And if so, that's cool. It's no worries. I'm just not sure whose background is really, really loud.
Yeah, it's not here. So what we're looking at is revisionist history. So if your ancestors would have been reclassified in the 1870 census, that doesn't mean in 1871 people was walking around looking at your ancestors saying they're Negroes. People knew who they were at the time. Revisionist, the documents only affect us when we're dealing with revisionist history, when we're looking back on things. That's why so many of us will go, oh, look, this says my ancestor was this. I know they was that. We're only questioning it now because we're not there with our ancestor. You see what I'm saying? When they were taking censuses, it's not like the census worker took the census, came into an Indian house, labeled everybody black, and then went and put on the board somewhere, these people are black. That was just for the documents. Everybody in those communities still knew who those people were. You understand what I'm saying? It wasn't how we think now, like they reclassified us and everything changed. But how the community saw you was one thing, and how law saw you was another.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where the
But
change happened.
in your heart of hearts, you don't need nobody to tell you that you was already here, do you?
No, because this is the thing, right? A lot of us, we speak from a wealth of knowledge that we have to go grab. You know what I mean? Because they hid it from us. They hid so much of the truth from us. So we're getting bits and pieces where we can get it from, right? The beauty about the tribal nations is they have tradition, right? So does tradition say we were always here? Tradition says, yeah, we was here long before they was here. We was always here based on our tradition. So when you are in your traditions, you don't even have to question the external, what you're hearing. That conversation doesn't even register because you're maintaining a tradition.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what our people, we're discovering these things, right? And we're discovering them through the books. And that's the lighthouse when you're on the water. It's the lighthouse. But because you see the lighthouse, you ain't on land yet. Tradition is the land. So the light we seeing now is just from the lighthouse. But there's a fire on land. And it's you know what I mean, the eternal fire that been burning. Even if it was just a small flame, somebody kept it burning. So we need to go gather around that so we can get tradition. And then with tradition, you're not debating what you learned. You can see it in the culture around you.
Yeah.
Every day. And once we get to that, we'll have a different mindset and we'll be able to deal with people in a very different way.
Based on what you said, we would call that, in modern terminologies, reading our culture. We automatically know how to read our culture because it's part of who we are. And we can see our culture and our culture's influence in any society that would be developed to try to stamp us out. We're going to always be here. And our culture is going to always be able to be read anywhere we are because we're going to always leave our fingerprints on anything that touch what belongs to us. Right?
Right.
This is how we recover anything that we lose. There's an ancestor said that everything is for everybody, but everybody ain't for everything. Right? Because we all got a different position to play. But when we secure the overall collective, what is in the interest of the most tribes has to be the loudest cry that we put out front for all of the rest of the tribes to catch on to the awareness. When we all catch on to the awareness, we naturally form back like all our tribes across the land. We know who we are. We don't need their books to tell us who we are. We need their books to show them who we ain't. We ain't these motherfuckers that came over here call themselves conquistadors. We not them. Englishmen and Brits, we not them. They look like us, but they not us.
Now, Rod, talk about this whole, because that's what really caught me up. This whole they look like us, but they not us. And I know, OG, even when we talking about the different types of youth, a lot of the youth that you work with, a lot of the youth that I work with, a lot of the youth that we work with are in the streets, right? So when we talk about this, they look like us, but they ain't us. And when we think about who is in these communities and who is the people doing the dirt, like who are the actual dirty players that look like us but are not us, I need y'all to tap into that, because this is one major problem. We keep looking at white-skinned people and not realizing that white is has a completely different meaning, completely different term. You know what I mean?
As well as black. Those are chest terms. Right? So we had traditions where Big Mama would cook the chief a turkey for the harvest. Right? And it was like a family joke. And on Black Friday, they slaughtered us. They made us the black pieces on the chessboard. They initiated the war. We didn't initiate the war. They swore to destroy us and take everything that we rightfully are heir to. We never swore that they couldn't have none, but that we swore we wasn't going to give it to them. If they were going to come to take it, they had to take it. Right?
And who are these they? Yeah. Well, who are these
So
they?
they came over here as conquistadors and as Britons, or Black Britons. Well, they used to call it the white man back then. But the white man used to look like us. What we see as the pale faces of Europe was their cat's paw. That was their blood shield to hide their identities while they infiltrate our communities. They never allowed themselves to be seen in public, but they will murder Malcolm X, Clarence 13X. They'll slaughter a whole family like they did for Lou Alcindor or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in Washington, D.C. These ain't pale people doing this dirt to us. This is not pale people infiltrating the Nation of Islam and the Moorish Science Temple of America. They look like us. These is the motherfuckers we've been fighting the entire time. But they was telling our ancestors, kill white. And they was pointing to the pale faces that they use to block their institutions. Right? So the day that they call themselves, they came over here and changed their name from Morenos or More into Moor. And then they tried to group us in with that so we don't remember who we is. They can claim our shit. Not happening, Captain. There's nobody right now in this group of us that, if we have the ability, is going to allow that to take place. We the elders now, so the game got to change. This the close of the age, the Jubilee year, right? At the close of the corporation and the rise of the indigenous people of the land, according to the Indigenous Rights Act. They gave it all back. We have to do our part as the collective tribes to reclaim it. All this land is tribal land.
Right. And Norris, you had a conversation with I can't remember, Ishmael Bay, I think it was. And that was actually a beautiful conversation. There was a few of you, as well as, I believe that you said that's your cousin, Two Hawks.
Yeah, Two Hawks.
Yeah, he also has a wealth of knowledge, and maybe OG will come back in. That was a very interesting conversation, because when we talk about these dirty players, it's very interesting to see the dynamic play out in person, right? And he was just full of a wealth of knowledge, and I can honestly say my spirit was really intrigued by what he was saying, because it felt heartfelt. It felt like he wanted people to know, you know what I mean, like the real behind what was going on. So you're familiar then with what Rod is saying, correct?
Okay. So, all right. So what I like to do, because just for me, I just, I'm more comfortable. I'll speak from like the experiences I've had, like tribal history, things of that nature, right? What I
Okay.
know of as, you know, the history I've studied, but you know, and also, you know, the wisdom of my elders. So when we look at the world, like the foundation for how everything moves in the world is the family, right? That's what they say, the family of men, right? Everything is family. Nations are families, the subgroups of nations are families, on down to the next baby that's being born in your family, right? That's the structure of everything. When you look at politics, everything is emulating the family structure, right? So if you want to understand the world and how things are operating and going on around you, look at your family, right? Because you're going to have the person in your family that married somebody from another nation. You're going to have the person in your family look just like you, but his spirit is questionable, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have the person in your family that is your, that means everything to you, and they're going to do everything for you. You know, you're going to have all that in your
Mm-hmm.
family,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when we look at the world, it's that's how it's not cut and dry, like boom boom. There was Europeans that came here that assisted us and that suffered. There was people of color who came here that assisted us and those that suffered. Christopher Columbus's navigator, Pedro de Moor, right? Christopher Columbus failed compared to what Pedro went on to do. He colonized more land than Columbus ever saw.
He was a blackamoor.
And he was a black Moor. He was a black man from no, he phenotypically he was what you would call a black man. He was from North Africa, but he was Christianized,
Yeah. He was
right?
from Al Maghrib.
Yeah. So the point I'm making is that when we look into our families, we look into our history, we're gonna have all that with right within. All the answers you seek is going to be right there. Who betrayed you? Who this? What's the circumstances? You're going to be able to see all that in your own family because it's all the microcosm, the macrocosm. The what we call the African burial ground in Lower Manhattan, right? That was a Lenape village. And long before those Africans ended up being buried there, the first groups of Africans that were brought into Manhattan, it was New Amsterdam at the time, right? They were purposely sent to go live amongst the Indians, to intermarry with them, because the European couldn't go right away because he ain't look nothing like him. So they could send the African in, and he not going there thinking I'm about to go break their whole tribal shit up. But that's a seed. That's where it started. Because when you understand how the tribes was truly broken up and how tribal land was turned into family land, that's why I say if you understand the family concept, you understand how they tie it together and how they untie it. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's that simple. And they want you to think it's black or white.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, it's family issues.
I feel
You
you.
go to
That's
you go
very
to
important.
Europe. You go to
Mm-hmm.
Europe and you study the kings and their lines. They got mad family problems going. The Scots and the Irish and the British, all the same people,
That's a fact. That's a fact. That's a
right?
fact.
But
Mm-hmm.
they got family issues. Who did they marry? Why they call them the Scots? What does
Mm-hmm.
that term represent? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Scot or scorched. You
Mm-hmm.
understand?
Mm-hmm.
What about that line that they don't like? Because who they married into, who's this going on, and all this tie back into land. You know what I'm saying? And it's all over the world like that. So these same principles went into India. What they do, they marry into the people. So now I don't got a claim at it, but guess what? My baby's got as much claim to that land as any of y'all,
Mm-hmm.
and that's
Mm-hmm.
politics. You know what I mean? So it,
Absolutely.
Tribal
and they
politics.
hide behind the black and white thing, so you don't see that going on.
Yes.
They
You
hide
got it.
behind the black and white things.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so
Right.
Yeah.
you don't see
Okay.
that, and
That's
Okay.
the smoke screen.
we get polarized by the black white thing.
Mm-hmm.
People in general get polarized by the black and white thing, and that's all they see, not
Mm-hmm.
knowing. Like, and I get flack from this all the time, right? And people, I'll be like, well, my family participated in the Underground Railroad, And we didn't keep the numbers, but New Jersey historians say we helped free over 10,000 slaves, right? We don't say that. That's what the New Jersey historians say, right? But we know that none of that would have been possible if it wasn't for three groups of people. The Native Americans who knew the trails, the Quakers who had some status, right? And the African American that would be the runaways that we would be assisting. And those of them that ended up staying and taking on that as a part of their identity, like, no, I got free. I'm staying amongst this community because I want to continue to help others. You know what I'm saying? So that brings you an amalgamation of people, right? Like I said, people can counter this and say, oh, well, I know, well, we have records of Dutch owning slaves. Yeah, and you got records of family members fighting each other, Hatfields and McCoys. So you can't, this is what they do. They'll always jump back to the black, white. If I say the Dutch helped in the Underground Railroad, they got to bring you right back to the black, white. Well, I got the thing that said the Dutch owned slaves. Yeah, but that's that particular family. This other family here. And until we start seeing history and the nuances of it, we're never going to get it because we're going to be polarized.
Right. So let me, yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I love what you just said, because we definitely get caught up in this whole black and white thing, right? And so this is just for me, and I guess I want to say this because I think that people assume that, and I don't know if that is a part of this matrix that we're in, but I think people are looking for like a one savior, one person type of thing, right? And for me, because I'm always like, until the problem is solved, until my people are good, there's still a problem that is going on, right? Exactly. So I hear what you're saying, because you're absolutely right. We do get caught up in the black and white. So if we stop getting caught up in the black and white, though, there still persists a problem. You feel me? OG, I want to tap in with you really quickly. I want to talk about if you've done your genealogy, you have your roots are in Newark, but if you want to talk about where your family is from.
I'm not even gonna say I haven't done the history of my family. Far as I know, all my family is right here in New Jersey. To be honest with you, we have there's not many McCrays running around. I have an Irish name, Sean McCray. So I haven't done the history of the background of my family. Everybody I know is here. My mom's brothers and sisters. I never met my grandfather on my mother's side. I never met my grandfather on my father's side. I met both grandmothers. I know my father's last name is Featherstone, so he has to have some type of Indian in his blood with that name. But I don't know, the real history. My dad wasn't in my life, so I never had a conversation with him to find out the history. And I don't know the history of the McCray side either. I just know the ones that's here in New Jersey.
What part of Jersey you from?
I'm in Newark.
That's where y'all from the whole time?
Yeah, my dad. I think my dad is originally from Plainfield, and they moved to Newark. So I'm not sure. I don't know his history, but I've spoken to his sister, my aunt, and she said they're originally from Plainfield, and he spent time in boys' homes, and then they eventually moved to Newark.
Okay. Wow.
Okay. No, that's and again, when we're talking about tapping.
Well, let me just say this: there was a lot of Indian boys' homes in Plainfield. A lot of those big houses, that's what they were. I'm not trying to make any connections for you. I'm just telling you that's what was going on in that section. There's a lot of they call them Indian schools.
But so you might be, brother. Yeah, you might be making some connections. But
it's probably a mixture of the multitude. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's speculation though.
Oh, but that's why I wanted your input, because you have in the history of the native and indigenous side of New Jersey, the tri-state area, period, because you out in New York as well, upstate too. So there's just a wealth of knowledge that we don't even have about that. And if, you know, most of us were already here, then this is information that even the youth that I work with, because I let them know up front, if you're a high school dropout, I'm letting you know, I'm congratulating you for not being somebody who sat around and wanted to be a part of the system because they come in and they feel downtrodden, you know what I mean? So, but they should know that it's not that you don't, you know what I mean? You're not smart enough. You just don't fit into the system that they've created, and that's okay. But you're still smart. You're still, you know what I mean? And so they're interested in wanting to know where they from and where they come from. But, people like you are just very, very important because you have that wealth of knowledge. But like I was saying, the problem still persists, right? There's still a problem. These people that are in our communities that look like us but are not us are a problem, and it goes beyond just that smoke and mirror black and white, right? Because once we realize that there are people who are actively working against it, it's not like they just there, right? They doing them, we doing us. These are people that are actively keeping certain groups of people out of wealth, out of educational opportunity. Like it's complete oppression. So this is not just you know what I mean? Like a smoke screen that we can just see through and the coast is, no, this was a problem going on. You know what I mean? So
and they use the secret societies to cover up their dirty deeds.
So get into it. Okay.
If we don't never learn the language of the secret societies, we ain't gonna know what the hell they doing. Right? Because if you don't learn that language, that's why they keep it from the average person that'll never see it. It's so subtle and it's right in your face. Right? They told us them plantations, them POW camps of slavery. Because we fought them nonstop. They changed the name of the wars, the Gullah Wars, from Seminole Wars. When they tell you about it one way, they the Gullah Wars, but when you tell it another way, it's the Seminole Wars. What the fuck is they telling us? Two stories running parallel at the same time. We don't learn to read their language and we don't learn to read legalese, we're not gonna know what's going on our own land. All of this stuff ties back to understanding the difference, because these people don't mix their blood with ours, but they let our children play together. They pretend to be oppressed just like us, but they handpick who they marry their children to. We don't do that no more. We used to do that too. But they had to break our families up. Like the brother was saying, this is all about the families. Right? So if you don't know how the family structure is, you'll never see the problem. If you don't know how to read your culture across the land, you will never see the problem. The ones that's running around holding positions of power and they do everything to undermine us, they obviously out there in our face. They not ducking and hiding. We just don't know what we looking at because we don't know about politics and government. That's what's keeping us behind the curve.
And so I know that Norris, you said that you work with some people from Newark who are in the political arena. Some people I work with as well. When you mentioned Dew, and I know he's running for a councilman of West Ward right now. Sean McCray also was running for councilman. He just tapped out. Darn it. I wanted to get his because he had ran a few times, I think twice, and if you involved in North politics, then you've heard of them. You know what I mean? It is something that, like I said, when you see it play out, right, is one thing to hear somebody saying it, but when you see the manifestations of what the story is play out in real life, it's a bit different. Can you tap into what Rob was just talking? He was just talking about, you know, if you don't know, we don't know politics. Talk to us about how the politics, you as an indigenous person, what's your role in all of this?
Okay, so what I do is I just identify what my strong points are and how I can assist. So any community that I would enter into or be a part of, that's the role I would play. So when it comes to the politics, you know, I'm not a politician. I have an understanding of what's right and wrong, but there's things that need to be facilitated for those individuals. You know what I'm saying? When you're trying to get your message out, what do you need? You need somebody that is, you know, videographer, somebody who's good at helping you convey your message. So that's the role I played in terms of politics. My job was to help them convey their message to a wider audience, to a younger audience. You know what I mean? So that's the role I played in terms of anytime I was assisting, whether it be with the new Black Panther Party and food drives, or, you know, the 24 hours of peace. You know what I mean? The job I took on was that. So I would say to anybody who has something to contribute to communities, to movements, what do you do best? What can you bring to it? And that's what you should bring to the table. You know what I mean? If you're a good thinker, if, you know, your mind is sharp and you're, you know what I mean, you're intelligent, you bring that to the table. Whatever it is. So that's what I brought to the political arena. Like, I'm not going to, you know, act like I was pushing for things and this and that. I'm just there to support people in any way I can and help, if I agree with their message, and help them get that message out there. You know what I'm saying?
So my experience in politics in the city of Newark has been very, very interesting. And it is interesting because you can have all of the talents. I feel like I agree with what you said, but you have those talents, and I feel like sometimes people, and maybe that's just the game of politics, and I think that that's a problem. This is why our younger generation doesn't want to get involved, because it's bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, it's real life politics, and that's not cool because nothing really is getting done. You know what I mean? And so my experience is that people may see those talents and use you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For nefarious things, for maybe it's non-nefarious, maybe they just, you know what I mean? And I know Rod talked about like the law of use, and when he said that, it was like, oh snap, wait a minute. If you ain't using it, somebody else is gonna use it. You know what I mean? So like, that's a dirty game. So I don't know how, and this is why I want to have these conversations, because the youth they're not with that.
So first of all, you got to understand the political machine that's established on the land, that's occupying the land in a de facto capacity. They have no intentions of giving any relief to anybody that look like us. They did not come here and set up a government to be our friend. They Supreme Court ruled in the 1800s we would be perpetual enemies as long as the United States was here. They already got their mind made up about us. So they system, when the brother is trying to get resources to assist somebody in a righteous cause, the system is designed to stop that. It's designed that way on purpose. That's not an accident. When a brother in our community start doing too many good works and it's affecting too many in the community and we get murdered, the system is behind that. They wrote paperwork proving that they behind it. They got a paper trail showing you their dirt to the people of the land. This is not mistakable. You can go read it for yourself. You can read Rex 84 for yourself and see what they got in mind for the people on the land. You don't need me to read that for you. You can go and read the COINTELPRO papers on your own. You don't need me to read that for you. But when you get done reading all of the dirt that they was doing to us as a collective people, you don't know who you is, then you won't know why they doing it. But once you figure out who you are, you know exactly why they doing it. And once you understand why they doing it, it's like the brother said, whatever your talent, it don't matter, whatever your skill, find somebody on a righteous cause to contribute to. We don't do it for the money. We do it for the love of the people. Other people do it for the money. Fuck the people. Our culture don't raise us that way. Ask the brother. Our culture don't raise us that way to be that selfish. Is that a part of your culture, bro? To be selfish and self-centered and disregard the needs of the most people?
North, I think he was talking to me.
Say, I just had something on my mind. Can you repeat that again?
I said, that's not part of your culture to disregard the needs of the people for a few dollars, is it?
No, I mean, absolutely. Like that's not a part of any indigenous culture.
It's directly opposite.
Yeah, like a lot of the issues we have are because we are under a capitalist system, and that's just the bottom line. Like, people are here to make money off of the resources. You know what I mean?
And we're the biggest resource.
Yeah, and we have been the biggest resource for the longest time.
Okay, now
from
being on the land, it's only logical to ask the question: whose system is it if it's not the indigenous people of the land, and how do we get rid of it and reinstitute the system of the people on the land?
So at this point, like, getting rid of, getting rid of.
Well, he said, whose system is it? That was one.
I mean, no, we know it's a capitalist system that was brought to us. Like, our system is, you take what you need. You don't hoard things so you can get rich off it. As simple as that, right?
That's native culture, right?
Huh?
That's native tradition, right? That's how we move as native people. We not looking to get rich off of it. We looking to help the people with it.
So this is how something would happen if on a daily basis you would go out every day and acquire the things you need on a daily basis, right? At the same time, you're saving up for the things that you need to sustain yourself during the winter times, right? Only when, say you had a baby, right? You had a child. Hunter might go out and kill a deer, right? You're going to honor the deer, and you're going to use the skins for the child. You're not going to go out there and kill 50 deer, skin 50, and then take a bunch of them to the market and have them sitting there on the shelf waiting for somebody to come buy it. That's not the culture. You're not going to be killing them by the hundreds to sell them to traders. That's not the culture. So everything's spun out of commerce, right? And now it's to the point where everything is for sale, right? And it's done only to make money. It's not done to facilitate the people. And that's where the greed and all that kicked in, because we get the term a buck from, that's how much a buck tail or a deer tail would get you. And still to this day, we'd be like, how that's $10. We still referencing, aspects where the culture started to be monetized, right? So when we look at all the stuff we do, hip hop, whatever we do, it gets monetized, and then it becomes this monster. And it's just more things getting fed into the capitalist system. You know what I mean? It's just like trees getting fed into a, you know what I mean? Just, and it's out of control. It's everything. Now it's, it's everything. It's likes.
Trying to feed an insatiable appetite.
Yeah.
So real quick, Rob, before you continue, I wanted to. I'm glad OG came back in really quickly, because we just talked about the politics, not like heavy, but I just wanted you to tap in on your experience in the political arena here in Newark for, you know, when you ran just recently as well as a couple years ago. OG, if you can tap in and just your overall experience in trying to get something done but facing resistance or whatever the case may be. You can hear me, OG?
You're freezing up.
Oh,
Camera
maybe he'll.
froze.
Yeah. Mm. All right. Well, if you can hear me, you can tap in and just let me know if you can hear me.
You trying to talk?
Maybe we can. You come back in, OG. So yeah.
And like, even when we talk about politics, remember, all this come from the families. So even politics come out of family business. You know what I'm
Which
saying?
is
So
true.
we gotta like, I think sometimes the stigma that comes with these things based on experiences makes us kind of turn away from the phenomenon. But certain things are unavoidable. You know what I'm saying? Like
That
politics is
unavoidable.
yeah, politics are ugly because of what has been done with the resources. It's all related to that. You know, aspects of politics are ugly because of how it's the intercourse it's had with resources and the inequality of the distribution of such. You know what I'm saying? But those same politics under the right situations can also feed a nation. You know what I mean? So it's about, like I said, some things are unavoidable. What it's about, yeah, it's not like the demonizing of any one thing, but it's about being mindful of all the parts that play into it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where we're losing out, and we get caught up in the negative aspects of results that, you know what I mean? So we continue to throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's what happened. Like, they forced us out of politics. And when we fell out of politics, this is when these things, because remember, we're looking at history from a revisionist perspective. If we were to hop in a time machine and go back to any of these times we study, it wouldn't be how it read on these books. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's with anything. You can think of the worst, like if we look up 9/11, 2001 in United States history, it's going to read a certain narrative, right? But if you go ask somebody in Idaho, what were you doing 9/11 at such and such? Their narrative might be completely different. So the point I'm trying to make is, in the moments as it's happening, it's very different than how it was written. You know what I'm saying? And when we look back on history, we're just really getting a certain perspective of what was really going on. That's what we're starting to understand as a people. We're coming to find out, oh, it's a whole, we're re-examining things from we're re-examining things, and we're seeing them from perspectives that we could never truly imagine because we're seeing a bigger picture. You know what I mean? So this is the same thing with anything. When you think about any nuance of government, of, you know what I mean, any type of interaction between people, even when we talk about all these things we talking about, there's been as much hidden about it as you know about it. You know what I'm saying? So,
or more.
Yeah, or more. So we have to reevaluate so much. And what we've been doing as a result is just throwing things out completely. And a lot of things you're throwing out are going to be some of them things you're going to need to get back to where you was at.
Like,
You know
yeah,
what I'm saying?
I'm quick to throw the Bible out the back though, but
Yeah.
we definitely need the Bible because that's part of the contract.
And I'll tell you another thing, like, so when when we were reorganizing my family, right? So when the tribes were being dismembered, like broken up, all right, let me take you back to something earlier. So in 1664, I believe it was 1664, might have been earlier, the first parcel of land was deeded to a European, and it happened in Monmouth County, New Jersey, right? The deed did not say this is your land. It said you can share the land with us, and this was the main part of the treaty, that they could occupy the land and have freedom of religious expression. Remember, the first Europeans were coming here, a lot of them due to religious oppression.
At least that's what they told us.
Right? So now when they come here and the deed is in Albany, right? It's documented, right? They were allotted certain lands to live on, right? Religious freedom. So now let's speed up to where we're being detribalized, right? We entered into the churches. First of all, the Lenape in my area are primarily Episcopalian, right? Not by faith, not by national historically we was Episcopalian. No, we're Episcopalian because everything we're going through is a result of Rome and the papal bulls, things of that nature, right? Colonization.
Facts.
They gave the okay. Rome also colonized England. And if you know about the whole King Arthur and all that, that's what that's talking about, right? The war between Rome and the people of England. The people of England developed their own church because they weren't under Rome. They developed what's called the Anglican Church, right? And the Queen was the highest person in that system. It wasn't the Pope, it was the Queen, right?
Yeah.
So when all this was happening, what do? As Lenape, we're deciding who we're going to side with, the French or the British. We already kicked the Dutch out. We already done with the Dutch. Now it's the French or the British. You got the French and Indian War. Who we going to side with? We're going to rock with the British because they probably going to win. You know what I'm saying? And we got treaties with them already. So to strengthen our alliance with the British, we became Episcopalian. Episcopalian is the American terminology for Anglican. That's political. Now, we began to hold our tribal governments and our meetings inside our churches. Because you got to understand, back then, when you went to church, it was just the people in your community. It wasn't like it is now. We got people driving from all over to come to some big church. And you're sitting next to somebody you don't know. Back then, the church was your community. So you discuss community business.
Are you referencing the indigenous people from this land like before the conquistadors, or are you referencing
this is all time of colonization?
Indians?
No, I'm talking about my people and why we built so many churches. My people built the first, and when I say we built them, I mean they contracted us to build these churches, not that we were spreading the religion. They contracted us to build these churches because these people found political freedom within their churches. So when we started to be stripped of our rights and our identities, what did we do? We studied the law and we said, oh shit, if we do this under a religious thing, we can protect ourselves.
That's the same thing that the AME church did with the
AME is African Methodist Episcopalian.
Yeah.
That's what it is. We are the AME.
Yeah. That was the whole purpose of that church, was to conceal the indigenous rights within the pretenses or the cover of a Christian
church
cloak.
Yes. So we could do that within the safety of the church, right?
Right.
That's why the church was so big to us. Over the generations, we just fell into the actual religion of it.
Right.
So
Mm.
We got
now when
seduced by the doctrine.
we got seduced by the doctrine. So now when you want to bring your people back, guess what? You're gonna have to go through that church
Yeah.
because that's
Mm-hmm.
where they comfortable. So
Yeah.
you
That's
can't be sitting here destroying their with their
psychological makeup.
crutch,
Yeah.
right? So you got to bring them back through the church. So when me and my family first had our first gathering to bring all this information back, you know where we did it?
In the church.
In the church.
Well,
And
you got to,
everybody came because they're comfortable. You know where
and
our last gathering was at? It was at the plantation where our Lenape grandmother was enslaved. But we started in the church. So everybody destroying our connections with the church because it ain't ours and they used it, and you gonna use it to bring your people back. But you gotta, you know what I'm
yep,
saying? It's not gonna happen another way because that's what we came through.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also the part of the contract. The Bible is part of the contract, and it's a big riddle. So that's one of the reasons we're gonna have to go back through the church. We backtracking. We
Mm-hmm.
playing history in reverse in real time in order to get out of the trap. Right. So the AME church is the most important church in our community because they kept most of the tribal traditions alive in the church, even though after Martin Luther King, the people begin to get seduced by the doctrine and absorbed in the military strategy that served its purpose. They took it as a permanent way of life, right? Because we didn't do that before Martin. If you look at the AME preachers before Martin, matter of fact, just look at the one that Martin replaced. He was a Baptist, but the church's organizational structure that held our um, culture together was interrupted by his presence as a Christian. And so when you read about the preachers before him, they all sounded like Malcolm X. But the preachers after him is all this love and light shit, right? But it's a time and a place for everything. But all of this takes us full circle back to the system, and it's the two main important things is who the fuck system is it, and how do we get rid of it, right? Because if you don't know whose system it is, you can't get from under it, right? So he made a key point when he said it was all put together by papal bulls. That is absolutely correct. And the collection of papal bulls that authorized these countries of these nations that was being exiled from Europe to come settle over here are called the white man's burden. But over there at the time, white man didn't mean what they take it to mean now. It was a status of royal hierarchy, but it was also a chess turn. So when they had the Pope's order to convert all heathens to the church, that was the order. All of the heathens was all of those who wasn't Christian. It didn't matter what you was, right? So this is what they was executing when they came over here, right? He said that the Episcopalian church highest rank, it stopped with the queen, right? But the queen got to be blessed in by the papacy. The priest got to go do the ceremony to bless the queen in because she get her artificial rule from the papacy and the papal bull dating all the way back to Emperor Constantine, right? She had to swear to be a Christian and swear to uphold the rights of the Christian church as a monarch. That's Constantine's edict. You can't hold power anywhere under the Roman Empire unless you make an allegiance to the crown. And then they allow you to hold your royal position. So the question is who system is it and how we get rid of it? So the system traced back monetarily to the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Politically, it traced back to the Crown of Rome and ultimately to the papacy in Rome, the church. And the church gave the order under the pretext or under the philosophy that the Pope was the closest living man to God, so whatever he said is the law of the earth. This can all be checked out, looked up, and verified. Right? So we under a Roman instituted rule. All roads lead to Rome is what they tell us. But you got to know who brought Rome over here in order to understand how all roads will lead back to Rome from over here. DC was part of the 3-city-state union. America was just for political strength. They've been using the Braves, being organic people to the land, as soldiers to fill their army of people who don't understand the nature of their oppressor and what he's doing. So they've been sending us to fight wars, trying to control the population of how fast we grow. They wrote about it in Morals and Dogma before they ever started doing it. That's another part of the contract. It go right with the Bible, right? All of it is laid out. And the remedy is obvious. At any time one of the tribesmen discover a remedy to the problem, he must make it known to the other tribes across the land. When the other tribes across the land become aware that they are equally affected by the problem and that the solution is viable for one, is viable for all, then all tribes adopt that solution as the remedy. That's the law of the land, not the admiralty law that we were under. Right? So now the alarm bell is sounded to all of the tribes across the land that there's a foreign agent on the land called themselves the United States government. They are a legal fiction, a corporation that undermine the political republic of the United States that was given a certain year contract, a 400-year contract under the biblical order, which you will see Pelosi tore up the Bible, and you will see Trump tore up the Bible, and you will see that Congress passed a bill recognizing the 400 years of so-called servitude. All of those things are important if you read in the culture of the land and you understand the nature of the contract. Once you understand the nature of the contract, the remedy for the contract is there's only 3 ways to end the contract. 1 is fraud. 2 is that somebody didn't uphold their part of the bargain. And at any time the person that don't uphold their end of the bargain is asked to renegotiate the contract, they have to renegotiate, which brings us to our Federal Reserve Act of 1933, right? Which was immediately followed by the gold seizure. Right? So when they seized all the gold, that was because of the renegotiating of the contract. But Senate Bill 191 said that we was bankrupt and that everything was already paid for the people. So they already had remedies in law that was never properly enacted because we was foregoing our indigenous rights, our organic rights, in favor of some shit called civil rights that don't have nothing to do with us. None of us are straw men, what you call legal fictions. Therefore, we cannot have a standing in civility because that's the law of the dead. That's the law of straw men held under the laws of nations. And all laws of nation fall under Uniform Commercial Code and Admiralty and Maritime. So in order to have a remedy, you got to know who's the enemy. Once you identify the enemy, then you alert the tribes. And this is what we're doing. These conversations is alerting the tribes to the position we're taking to reclaim what's rightfully ours in order to move back to a symbiotic relationship with the universe and with Earth. Because the imposters apparently have no respect and no regard for the planet nor the people. So it's up to us, it ain't up to nobody but us, to assert our position and our roles as the caretakers of the land to restore the land restore the balance to nature, and restore the balance of nature to humanity. That's our job as caretakers of the earth. We don't have to agree with everything everybody say. We just got to do the part that nature gave us to do. How you know nature gave you that part? Because that's what you're good at. You're not good at it by accident. You didn't learn your skills by accident. There was a process involved. That's how you know it wasn't an accident. So now you use what you know, what you have to benefit the collective, and you do the part that you feel the nature gave you to do. And everybody do their part. This shit move like clockwork. It move like it's supposed to. It move like a family unit. The whole family gonna work together. We don't always have to agree on everything. That's not how it works. We only gonna agree on the stuff that's gonna help us the most, and it's gonna put us back in the position where we have a say in our day-to-day life. What we call it autonomy. As long as we can be autonomous and we not causing harm to others, and it's a righteous cause, we obligated by the laws of nature to support one another. If one of us on some bullshit, we equally obligated by nature to call them on their bullshit and leave them hanging. That's just natural shit with no extra sauce on it.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, what I would say to that, what I would add to that is that when we seek in remedy, right, a lot of the remedy we seek, or I hear people speaking on, is individual remedy, right?
Yeah.
We're trapped in commerce because we are moving as individuals within this space, right?
Facts.
We should be operating as, right, if you're not a nation, you should be operating the same way that they operate, under a corporate status, right? Because if you're interacting with the United States, it should be a nation or a corporation interacting with a nation or a corporation. We get
Or
ate up because we're
how about we
interacting.
try this?
Mm-hmm.
How about the indigenous people take the charter of the corporation that they had and restructure before we do business with anybody that's not part of the land?
Okay, so the situation with that is the indigenous nations that are under contract or that would be in bed with the United States, right?
Mm-hmm.
In agreement with them,
Mm-hmm.
they are under the power of attorney of the United States.
Yeah.
So they can't determine their own real outcome. The
Now,
ones who are going to be able to make changes are those who are not in contract or under
right.
control of the government.
And
And that's
those contracts we call treaties, right?
well, when we talk about treaties and land deeds, I think like people need to understand, when you're talking about a treaty, you really need to be reading the particulars of the treaty, because people just think a treaty is this, or I mean, they have a general
A
idea.
treaty is a contract. It's
Yeah, it's a
agreement
contract,
between, right. It's an
but the
agreement between two
particulars
people to meet
determine.
certain specific conditions.
Yes.
Right.
So
That's a contract.
one treat like most of them were
Oh, no.
contracts to allow people to live on land with us, not as we think that they were purchases and things of that nature. You know what I mean? But just in terms of
1 minute, y'all.
just in terms of the remedy, what we're looking for, yeah, we need, because like the United States is set up for commerce, and if you're set up the right way, you can get what you want out of it too, right? If you're not set up, you're going to get eaten up by the machine. So it's a matter of people getting, like, nations need to be in place.
And when you say setting up the right way, yeah, talk. So what do you mean? If you set up the right way, then you can.
So when you're on equal standing with the United States government, right? Then you can negotiate with them nation to nation, right? When you are like treaties that predate the Constitution are law of the land, right? So there's going to be certain nations that have treaties that predate the United States ever even existing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those would be the particular nations that are in the most, that are in the best position to start acting on what's going on the international level.
Right.
So when you say getting
So
on an
that's
equal
already
standing,
been done. That's already been done by the Washingtons under Empress Verdiasi, where
Well,
they proved that that okay. So when you're talking contract law, because when you're talking treaty law, you're talking contract law, and
yeah,
contract law of treaties is governed under Uniform Commercial Code.
but
If they don't
no,
uphold their end
that's
of
the
the
thing.
treaty,
Nah,
listen. If
anything, but see, that's the thing. Treaty law predate, like when we say treaty law, right? Those are laws that were written after the treaties.
no, treaty law governs the dispensation of a treaty between two parties that have come together to make this contract.
Yes,
The
and who determined that law?
the it's agreed to under Uniform Commercial Code, so it's a law of
Okay,
kings.
so that is with that would not have any bearing on the treaties that existed before the United States.
Yes, it do, because the treaties before the United States was also governed under Uniform Commercial Code.
It didn't
That's how they
exist.
enforced. They
It didn't
enforced the
exist.
law. It's the law of nations. This been in effect long before Columbus came.
Yeah, but what I'm like, jurisdiction over the land ain't got nothing. Like
Right,
when you
because
start,
the
when,
jurisdiction, the first jurisdiction of the land falls to the heirs to the land that's from the land.
no, that's not okay.
Unless
So
you surrender your jurisdiction of the land. You a sovereign body on the land.
everything we're talking is of your, like everything that's being discussed in this moment here is of European design.
No,
Because what? No, no.
because what I'm going over tribal traditions in relation
And
to
I'll
what
speak
the
to that.
Europeans brought.
It has nothing to do with commercial codes. First of all, like
Hold on one second.
and you're saying there was something before the Uniform Commercial Code that the treaties were
it,
regulated by.
what language is the universal? What is the commercial code written in? What language?
Oh well, no. I mean, if you're asking, right, he said he'll be back because
These are all constructs of United States politics,
mm-hmm.
right? In 1659, when that first agreement was made to allow these Europeans to stay there in Monmouth County, New Jersey, it was not about the commercial codes or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that agreement predates any agreement before the United States or any party of the United States, because the United States did not exist.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that's created after certain treaties or agreements were made, right, are law of the land. Like the Lenape people have a treaty with Britain that predates the United States. That treaty is not honored because of the Revolutionary War. See? But it's
Mm-hmm.
still on record. So this is why, like certain tribes, their first treaty is with the United States. That means they haven't entered into any agreements with these people until a certain year, because the United
Mm-hmm.
States did not exist until a certain year. There are treaties that predate anything the United States agreed upon. Like the treaty between a colony and a tribe is superior to the treaty between the United States because it predates it. This is when they say any treaty prior to the
That's called the
Constitution.
grandfather clause. The law
Yeah,
that's on the book first take precedent over the new
you
law under a new
you
system.
yeah, you can call it. But so the remedy for us is not going to lie anywhere in anything that comes after the United States creation, because
Exactly.
all that is going to be in their favor.
Right.
Our remedies lie in what predates that.
So basically what you're saying is we can't use their culture to overthrow their culture from our shit.
No, all you can
We
use
got to
that
use
for,
our shit to oust them from our shit.
all you can use their shit for is a better seat on the ship,
Yeah, we don't want no seat
On
on
their
their ship.
ship.
But
on
if
their
we
ship.
can use our shit to oust them.
No, we don't have to oust them because they're really here just to do commerce.
Well, they really only hear in paper.
Yeah, just to do commerce. So when we're in our proper places, we can do commerce with them from a different perspective. That's it. We don't have to tear nothing down because it's all built for commerce. Why would we do that?
Why would we do that? Because we have never benefited. We can't trust nothing they
No,
say. They broke every agreement they
no,
ever
no.
made in
But
commerce and in law.
listen what I'm saying. Listen what I'm saying. I'm going to make it real simple.
Okay.
If you have a beach, right? And on that beach, you have thousands of people swimming, right? You're paying $20 to get on the beach, right? You shouldn't have to because we've been here forever. We've been swimming on this beach forever. They have lifeguards. They got food stands. They got everything, right? But our grievance is that we're being overcharged to get on the beach. Why are we going to tear down the stands and destroy the lifeguard position? No, what we're going to do is say, listen, this ain't right. We're going to move people out and put our people in place. And we're going to continue to enjoy the beach. We're not going to tear up the hot dog stand because we're going to want to use that at some point.
Okay, that's infrastructure you talking.
Yeah, I'm
Infrastructure.
talking about the infrastructures
Listen,
don't need
listen.
to go.
The infrastructure not the problem. It's the
Yeah.
The
political
sits.
elites that's running the show that's the problem.
So that what need to be
There is a
addressed.
remedy. There has to
Right.
be a remedy in law for anybody that's doing what they've been doing to us. And if we find a remedy, apply the remedy and solve the problem.
There is a remedy. It just has to come from a certain group of people. And those people, like all of us, are waking up to these things.
Yes, sir. I agree.
Right? Many tribes are dissolving the blood quorum. You know why? Because they know they need numbers. And they hear all these people out here talking about, yeah, we Indian, we Indian. So damn, if these people is out here saying they Indian, maybe we need to get rid of this blood quorum so we can start building our nation. To get our numbers back, to get right again. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot going on that, you know, when we talk about everything that we doing now, none of us is going to be here to see the fruits of our labor. And if you're doing it to see that, you're doing it wrong because it's going to take generations and generations, the seventh generation principle. We should be thinking about what we do now. We should be thinking about for 7 generations ahead of us.
And that's what we
Not
laid
6.
out. That's what we laid out in the beginning. This is a conversation for the youth, and this is, this is the marathon. So you guys are a part of this. You know what I mean? Go ahead though, because you're definitely on track.
So, to bring it all around, because we talk about the end goal, and the end goal can be so daunting and overwhelming, and we spend a lot of time talking about that. We need to be talking about, okay, how do we get the youth reconnected? Because that's where it starts, because they're the ones that's going to have to finish it and pass it on. So our goals are simple. The kids out here, how do we attract them back to not just the culture, because before they get to the culture, they're going to have to get to something that even makes them interested in the culture. You know what I mean?
What I'm starting off with is the truth. The youth that I work with, we need the truth. You know what I mean? Righteousness and truthful. That's what we starting off with,
So what we do within our tribe is we try to connect with the youth of our families, right? But we're not coming at them on some old, you need to learn this. We have to be crafty enough to present it to them in ways where they're going to naturally gravitate towards it. And then once they start to get that spark of interest, then you start hitting them with the pride, And then it's, once you plant certain seeds, they're gonna run with it. Our problem is we want to plant the seed and come out tomorrow and see the bush, see it sprouting.
Fast
Nah,
food culture.
yeah, fast food culture. No, you got to plant that seed. And you got to continue to water it. You got to do all the things you would do, right? Just like when you nurture a child that's just born into your family. He don't have chores in his third day on the planet. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, we got to. That's why we look at our family. We got to look at, like, what do we do with the kids? Well, what'd you do with your child when the child was born? We got to do these things. How did you get the attention of the baby? It was something you played. The baby was crying and screaming. It was something. For me, it was a Jodeci tape. I put the Jodeci tape in. My son straightened up and started listening. Whatever it may be. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to figure these things out to make it attractive, like, which means we got to repair the family, which means we need our boys looking up to their fathers, our girls looking up to their mothers. Which brings us back to the same shit everybody been talking about for the past how many ever years. Yeah, they've been doing all this stuff to us, but we got to start doing things for ourselves to start changing things on a microscopic, on a small level, so we can see it grow. And that's just the truth.
I'd rather do it big.
Yeah, I know. And people aim for the big shot all the time. That's why I'm Turtle. Because slow and steady win the race.
That's what my mama said.
Yeah.
I like that.
So
I feel you.
I could have came out and started telling people about this shit 25 years ago. But the people wasn't ready to hear it, so I continued to study the problem until I could find a viable solution. The only solution to the problem that I was able to find is find out who owned this shit, take their shit over. And then we can start restoring the land back to its proper state. We can start working again symbiotic with the land. This the goal. It ain't gonna happen overnight, but it ain't gonna be long. Right? Because I already did the necessary work according to the culture and according to what was on the land in order for us to be back in the position to have a say on the land. They already gave it back to us. We just got to be savvy enough to exercise the authority that was put in our hands.
Now, so I just want to speak to that. Like, that's another concept. Like, people say we want our land back. They say these things. In our tradition and culture, it's not our land. The land don't belong to us.
Nobody.
We belong to the land.
Yeah.
That's why I'm Lenape. Because I belong to the territory that is Lenape-Hopian. And that's what I belong to.
Yeah.
Right? And that is what I need to be restoring. That's why it's important for everybody to return to their own, as Noble Drew Ali would say, their own vine and fig.
Yeah.
Right? And like, that's the only way it's going to happen, because those, like, when you go, like, yo, everybody got to go, y'all got to go home. Wherever your home was. If you really want to make a change.
I'm a Mississippian, so I already know where I go.
You got to go home, because your family got a history there that you could stand on.
Yep. I already made the links down there. I already been doing the work.
That
See,
you could start.
It's a lot of work involved to what I'm saying, but me saying it doesn't show the work. But if you see the work, then you understand clearer what I'm saying, because I'm not just talking. I'm talking about the actions that I've been performing, right? And the actions that I've been performing is specifically with every tribe in mind, right? I didn't do it just for my tribe, but I was asked by multiple tribes to see what I could do to resolve the matter. So I went in and I researched it and researched it again. Double checked it, rechecked it, checked it back and forth to make sure I was right. Then I came and produced all of the receipts to show the clans, this is what all of the work is on my Facebook and Instagram, so that we can see what's taking place in real time, what happened in the past, but more importantly, what are we going to do for the future? The first order of business, tribally speaking, for the future, secure the children, because they are our future. If we ever expect to have any kind of future of value, we have to secure the youth. We have to teach them a better way to have a better day. If you keep teaching them fucked up, you're going to have a fucked up future.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we look to the children to be the source by which we return back to earth. So the ancestral spirits travel down the family line. And eventually they're going to come back. And this is why you got more elders being born at this time. This is the close of the age. At the close of the age, we have a responsibility to Mother Earth. To anything that's repulsive to Earth, we have to remove it. That's our job as being caretakers of the land that we belong to. Everybody got their area. We call it tribal terrain or your tribal lands. But this, like you say, we don't own the land, but then the land provides for us, and we show our gratitude by maintaining the balance in nature. When somebody upsets the balance in nature, then we try to figure out how to restore the balance. And we don't take sides, right? Because when you take sides, it obscures your vision. So once we figure out the solution, then we can start coming back together under, of course, the whole system ain't going to be totally annihilated. Like you said, there's certain stuff in the structure that's useful to everybody, right? So if it's useful to everybody, then it's worth keeping. But anything that's harmful to a group of people has to go. We got to get rid of the racism, the sexism, the miseducation of the children in order to turn us all into mind-bent zombies, working drones with no sense of purpose or direction, right? We got to reinstill these values back in the children that you here to be the best you that you can be. And we can only be who we are, and we the only one that can feel that bill. Can't nobody else be the you that you are. That's why you who you are. No big eyes, no little U's. My opinion ain't no more better than yours. My shit don't smell no more better than yours. Right? So we all here in this shit together. We might have a different viewpoint about aspects of the problem and the solution. But whoever can put in a workable solution, do the best you can. And if it's a righteous cause for the most clans, we're going to support that. Right? All of this selfishness in politics where they selling us out, that's the problem. Everybody out for me, myself, and I, they don't even care about their kids. He just want to look good in his Lambo. Right? But what about his son? His son can't look good riding in the Lambo. I want his shoes on my seat. You know? That Lambo ain't better than my son. Fuck that Lambo. I'll run that bitch off a cliff. You know what I'm saying? My son is my passport to the future. If I want to have a viable and prosperous future, I got to teach my son how to be a viable and prosperous asset to the community. And he gonna make sure that he passed them lessons on to his, because they worth learning and holding on to. Right? So we got to eat the meat, spit out the bones. Use what's useful for you. Because what's useful for you might be the final piece to the puzzle. The shit that ain't useful for you is not for you. But it don't mean that it's not for me to use it. Because it's not for you. Right? So we all got different positions to play. Right? I'm loving this brother energy. I'm loving this information. You know what I'm saying?
I was just gonna ask him. I hope he come back, because I really want to do this part 2 with y'all, because he said he brought up a name, Noble Drew Ali, and it is crazy to me how the Moor Zionist Temple was started in North, and we just don't talk about that history. And even if it was just for a short time, we don't talk about it. So I agree, Rod. The energy is amazing from both of y'all. I just talked to Rod a little bit more, but no, I definitely appreciate it. 100%. Yeah.
So everybody got a piece, and we come together like this. We put our piece up. This is my piece. This is your piece. This is his piece, right? And we try to find the harmony in it, coming from different tribes. We're not supposed to see everything the same.
Mm-hmm.
If we all seen everything the same, we would never get out of the condition.
Facts.
No. But what we supposed to do is each one teach one. We all got to reach some. And there's one common denominator across all of the tribes agree. Secure the children first.
Absolutely. That's what comes first, the babies.
Word. Well, this is almost 2 hours, gentlemen. And I appreciate this whole bill, even with OG before he tapped out. I don't want to keep y'all too long, just because I know, you know, you might be grilling out. I hope, you know, we grilling out, because, you know, all right, we the aunties and uncles now. We the ones throwing the cookouts.
Hey, look, I say any excuse to bring the family together, take advantage of it, even if it's a pagan holiday.
Yep, absolutely.
Facts,
absolutely.
facts. Well, gentlemen, I thank you so much. If you guys have any, you know, last things that you want to, you know, touch on, but I definitely want to put it out there that I want to do a part 2, another one of these. And if you guys have other people that you want to, you know, bring in, I know we mentioned Chief Two Hawks, and, you know, Rye, you always chatting it up with somebody, but you good, you know, you just bust out on your own. You and Big Mama, y'all come through like it ain't nothing. So, you know, definitely want to put that out there. But yes, any last little comments and just words for the people?
Keep y'all head up. Catch me on this next Young Elder video, because we're going to be giving y'all some very important information for the land. Brother, I appreciate you. I love you. I value you. You know what I'm saying? We are changing things on a level that's bigger than you can see right now, but trust, the Great Spirit works in our favor.
Right? Thank you, brother. Thank you, sister, for having me. Everybody who sat here and you know, gave us their time and energy, I thank y'all. And you know, it's a great experience, brother. You definitely are moving the people. I'm seeing what you're doing out here, and you know, respect to you for that. And hopefully we can continue the conversation another time.
For sure, for sure.
Right. Peace.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, take care.
Love you, sweetie.
I love you guys.